Hey guys, are you worried about what AI is doing for SEO? Today we have Damon Burton, the founder of SEO National, and he is the most incredible SEO person you've never heard of. And you've heard all of the SEO stuff about AI and GEO and ranking in ChatGPT and all kinds of hoo-ha nonsense. But today we're going to break down what actually works in SEO from the guy who founded one of the largest SEO companies on the planet. So if you want to know what is real and what isn't, you're going to want to tune into this episode. Today we're here in Layton, Utah. We're at Damon Burton's new office and training academy and co-working space called Utah Marketers.
That's what we're going with, yeah.
Amazing. But tell everyone about your background and why they should listen to you.
Sure, yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and this is so cool to have. I didn't know until right before I hit record. This is number one of a big deal. This is going to be a big deal. So it's exciting. You know, it's been a long journey. So 18 years into SEO, and built it without running any paid ads. I have no formal form of lead generation, which is ironic for running a marketing company, but it's just been built on performance and results. Work with really cool people like Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, but majority of our clients are, as we're going to talk about today, local businesses, small clients, taking a lot of clients from kitchen tables. This is kind of a kitchen table to 50,000 square foot warehouses and all sorts of cool things. So it's been a fun ride.
I love how every few days you post on Facebook and you showcase the chart that shows how much traffic they get and how much rankings you get and how you keep clients for such a long time. What are you doing differently in SEO that these other SEO gurus aren't doing?
It's easy. You just be honest. So, I mean, for the fellow agency owners out there, like if you want to really differentiate yourself from all, I mean, there's no shortage of marketers out there. So where there is a shortage is transparency and setting expectations. So the biggest differentiating factor is how well do you proactively set these expectations? How do you make your customer a better customer? So all the things that you're scared to say are exactly the things you should say. That SEO is slow, that it takes time, that it's expensive, that you don't get my cell phone number. I love you, but I love my family. Here's the boundaries, right? And so when you do that, especially newer agencies, you know, we have a whole page that says reasons not to hire us. And so when you talk to these like newer agencies, they're petrified of talking about things like that. But what happens is it actually increases your conversion rate on these contracts, because when you send these agreements that say, look, we're professionals, these are our boundaries, they now respect you and they go, oh, Damon means business. And not only is he protecting his time, but he's protecting his time for the sake of better performance for me as one of his customers. So the better you can set expectations, it's so simple, but it drives better results, drives better client engagement, and keeps your sanity, keeps your peace of mind.
And a lot of these SEO people will say, well, SEO takes time, and you know, often is an excuse for not delivering results or not demonstrating that they're making some kind of progress that's visible. How can a local service business tell whether that SEO person is just making excuses to buy more time versus things are going the way they should be?
Yeah, so one thing to think about when you engage a local service provider is, it's a really simple phrase that I use, is progress versus monetization. So when an agency talks to you about a length of time, there is some truth to that, but to Dennis's point, most people fail to communicate why it takes time. So they should have some transparency about explaining what the rollout of the campaign is going to be and what sort of expectations and what sort of KPIs, right, key performance indicators. And so a lot of times people go, well, Dennis, when am I going to get my money back? And so, you know, I'm going to speak more to the SEO side because that's my area of expertise, but you can kind of apply this to any form of marketing, is whatever your length of time is expected to get an ROI, be transparent with them. And so in the world of SEO, you often hear that it takes 12 months, but how often do you hear why it takes 12 months? And so you as a purchaser of these services, when you understand progress versus monetization, you can have progress pretty quickly in the world of SEO, in the sense that you can see progress showing up on page 10 of Google and then moving to page 8 and then moving to page 5. So you can see you hurdling over your competition, and you're going to have 0 traffic, 0 sales, 0 leads from it because all the traffic is on page 1. So you should be able to have some sort of understanding of what's coming and how long and why, and then that's going to be a big differentiator, which will also make you more patient and understanding to what's going on and feel heard and seen, which allows them the space to deliver better results for you.
So the SEO analytics tools last month basically show a huge drop in purported SEO rankings because they don't show the results from 20 forward. And how is that impacting your clients, or do you even care?
For us specifically, it hasn't made a big difference because one of the first things we did is go to the tools that we use and go, hey, is this an issue? So hopefully your service provider is proactive enough to look at these tools and identify, is this going to be an impact on how we can show forward momentum or not? So for us, it hasn't been a big deal because luckily the vendors that we use for the tools found a solution around to how to. So what Dennis is saying is, Google made a change where it made it a lot harder to track some of this performance results of where you show up on Google. And so luckily the vendors that we use found a solution.
Fantastic.
Cool. Something that I think is really big in the SEO industry, and at least Dennis and I deal with, since you work with local service businesses, is how they're getting burned by SEO agencies or new trends in SEO coming up. So when it comes to clients, how do you deal with all the big new fads, you could say, in SEO, and then communicating that to them so they know that what you're doing is still consistent and bringing results?
Yeah, so that one's really easy. Stop paying attention to all the fads. So, for as long as I've been in this, you've been in this, 30 years? I've been in this 18 years. And if you think about the fundamentals of how you show up higher on Google, there's hundreds or thousands of variables, but you can lump them all under just 3 core pillars, which is how well your website is built, how good your content strategy is, and how good your authority and credibility is. And any algorithm today, and any that I can think of moving, it may change down the road, but any that I could foresee are all going to fall under one of those 3 categories. So the problem that you run into with newer agencies, newer marketers, or as Dennis likes, bro marketers, things like that.
Bropreneurs.
Lambros.
Lambros. They're really good at marketing themselves. And so part of that is catching on shiny objects. Now, over the course of the 2 decades that I've been working on this, we've never had a client get a penalty. And if usually when these algorithm updates come up, our clients are either neutral or up. And the reason why is we just completely avoid that. Stick to the fundamentals. Sure, there's probably somebody that can get you results slightly quicker, but unsustainably. So are you in this for the long game, and can you embrace delayed gratification? Or do you want to constantly be chasing things? So if you want to constantly chase things, and pay attention to the little corner cuts and the hacks. But if you want to have patience and delayed gratification for a long-term reward, just stick to the fundamentals, which is probably applicable even outside my area of expertise of SEO and other areas.
That could be to everything. That could be to marketing. That could be applied to, every field of life. Stick to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
That's really good. At least with local service businesses too, getting burned is a big thing. And it happens all across the board in plumbing, chiropractic, whatever it is. There's marketing agencies that burn them, pay a lot of money, and never get results back. So from your end, doing this for almost 2 decades, what's some advice you give to a local service business like an HVAC or a plumber on what they should know if they do hire an SEO agency?
The better that they can communicate in general, but also in simplistic terms. Anytime, Dennis will probably appreciate this, anytime I hear the word guarantees, usually that's a red flag. Because when a service provider mentions a guarantee, it's usually to bridge a buying concern, but it doesn't actually address an underlying problem of deliverables and service. And so guarantees are often a red flag because a qualified experience agency is going to be honest and transparent and say, I can't give you guarantees. That's not to say that the probability of success isn't high, but here's why I can't deliver guarantees, because there's too many variables out of my control. Things may change, the algorithms may change, whatever. But I can give you an average of performance, right? So again, I think in the majority of these questions, it's going to be like, is there an element of transparency into what the answer to the question is? And also avoid jargon-heavy people, because I think a lot of times when you go into a sales negotiation with a local service provider, they want to sound smart. So when you go jargon-heavy, then usually that's the guy selling the deal, not actually delivering the deal, not doing the fulfillment. So try to pay attention to who you're talking to. Is it the person that just wants you to close the deal, or is it the person that's actually going to take care of you?
There is one guarantee they can make, that they will charge your credit card every month. But to Sam's point, he's my co-founder in Local Service Spotlight. How can you tell if someone's a salesperson versus an actual hands-on implementer?
Me or Sam?
It's you. I'm continuing on Sam's question.
So the provider versus the sales guy.
Yeah.
There's an attention span difference, right? Usually the service provider that genuinely has your best interest at heart is, I'm like the anti-sales guy as far as I'm concerned, because I want to deliver what is right, and that may not be me. And so look for the person that's looking to actually give you a solution, not a sale. And so it's often in how they dialogue. And, is the conversation about, am I a right fit and can I help you get what you're looking for, or is it just how quickly can we close this deal?
I see you teaching at Russell Brunson's mastermind. I see that Tony Robbins has you as a client. You've got a ton of authority in the digital marketing space. You speak at the big conferences. What's something that people might not know about what it's like working with a Tony or a Russell?
Tony and Russell are great clients, and they're significantly different from like a logistics perspective of doing an agency engagement. Both of them are well accomplished. Both of them have big teams. Tony's team is on a significant, there's layers to that. And so, one thing that I actually learned a long time ago, even before I was in the agency space, is, I don't know if you know this, but I worked in radio. So I was on air as a radio DJ here in Utah for about 7 years. And so through that, I got the opportunity to meet a lot of cool people and celebrities and behind the scenes. And what you find out through celebrities, which parlays into, people like Tony and Russell's credibility, is that they're just other people. They're just normal people. And so that's how you have, the way that you have a better engagement and a better relationship, or even open the door to have the possibility to have a relationship with these people, is to not treat them like Tony and Russell, just to treat them like a normal person. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that's helped a lot in these big deals. And usually the bigger the deal, the more it was brokered through trust and relationships. Yeah. Like if you think about it, there's no way that you could there's no amount of ads or efforts you could run to get in front of the decision makers at those types of, you might get across their desk, but not in a way that is going to catch their attention and trigger some sort of outreach. And it's all based on a lot of what we were talking about, lunch earlier, is trust and authority and these credibility and giving. And so a lot of it's based on giving without asking in return.
And just like you've built a great reputation, you are sharing what your clients are doing, you are building long-term relationships. I think we had a chat last month where we basically said reputation and SEO and PR and social media are all kind of the same thing. They're all just different sort of angles on the same, it's like the blind man and the elephant, right? All different ways of looking at the same elephant. Yeah. And you just happen to leverage relationships as a direct practitioner into results, and the results create your reputation, which creates the word of mouth and the referral effect, which is, I think, the same loop that all of us who have local service businesses do. And so what do you think about that? Because the stuff you've been saying about how do you find, well, not even how do you find, but how do you qualify the people you want to work with? Because you can set expectations, because it's a relationship, it's not just paying money to a vendor. It's the same thing that the ideal clients would also want to do on behalf of their clients. It's like a digital reflection of reputation and referrals and the trust and authority and those other signals, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it boils down to personal branding, and there's the quote that somebody else made, that your vibe attracts your tribe. And actually, another point we were talking about lunch was we were talking about different levels of engagement and relationships. I'm a generally soft-spoken kind of person, and so even though I deal with great, grand people and grand personalities, behind these closed doors opportunities, it's all about kindness and giving and things like that. And so I've realized in retrospect that that's what you attract. And so when you start to put yourself out as a local service provider, whether it's like, my dad was a plumber for 20 years and he just retired last year. And so one thing I always try to, plumbers are plumbers, right? And so like especially my dad, he's real old school. And so it's like, how do you talk to him about marketing? And so, but a really simple way to kind of like segue or bridge that gap that I was trying to explain to my dad is, the more value you give, the more you get back. And so the more you give without expecting a return, the more you get back more than you could have asked for had you tried to do it intentionally anyways. So an example in the service provider is when we talk about personal branding and social media and what type of content you put out, is put out the stuff that solves problems. And like a really broad, simple example that I gave my dad was, do a video about how you fix the little flapper on the toilet. Because if you solve that problem, okay, you might lose a $100 job. But now you gain a $5,000 water heater job or whatever, because now you establish that trust. And so that's a good example of when you give without expecting in return, you get something greater.
Interesting. You have some really, you mentioned Tony Robbins and then Russell Brunson. How do you feel like those relationships, being that they're relationships that are built on trust and that you guys do business together, how do you feel like that has affected SEO National?
I don't know that, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. So I don't think it's necessarily affected us good or bad. It's been fairly neutral. Certainly there's a credibility that comes with it, which is nice. Sure. But the relationships, I've never personally talked to Tony, and because there's just such those layers to it. Yeah. But his point of contact, I do have a great relationship with. Right. And he's the one that reached out to me and we negotiated the deal, and it was all based on trust. He had a very specific thing in mind, and I ended up answering how to solve that problem during the lead call. And Russell's a fun story to talk about because I came into his mastermind years ago, and I knew of him, but I didn't know his whole persona and how big he was relative to digital marketing at the time. And so that relationship, the more I got to realize how big of a personality and persona he had, the more I did not lean into it. Because, back to the radio thing, and you see that these people these guys are just asked for stuff every day. Take a photo, can you answer a question, whatever. So even being in his group for years, I don't think for the first 2 years I even asked him for a photo. Wow. I didn't want to ask him for anything. And so then the way that evolved was, I've been in his group for 5 years now, and I started working with him as a client about 2 years ago. And so for the first year was like, I was just there, I got the value out of the group, didn't bother him. Sure. Second year, kind of said hi and established a little bit of a relationship. And then somewhere between the second and third year, he would message me a question. And most people are going to jump on that and go, Russell, I can answer your question. Do you want to jump on a lead call? Do you want to jump on Zoom? And is there any, what package do you want? So I just answered the question, and that was the end. And so what ended up happening was it went from one question every couple months to one question every month to one question every week to a question every other day to finally, why don't we just hire you for this, right? And so again, that's a good example of you couldn't buy access to that sort of opportunity. The only way in is based on trust built over time.
Really cool. You mentioned earlier with your dad being a plumber, problem solving. Working with, you say you do stuff with local services, so we'll hint on that, but what are the biggest problems that you see local services have when it comes to ranking on Google?
Well, local services are a fun industry because to show up higher on Google because, I'll try and answer this without getting too technical. We talked about the fundamentals being how good your website is structured, how good your content strategy is, and then how good your credibility is. So when we talk about those three fundamentals, that technical side is actually the smaller portion of it. You front load that, and then once it's done, it's done. And so when you're brokering with these agencies and trying to negotiate who's going to do your marketing, keep that in mind. A lot of that's front loaded, and if you have an agency that says, I'm going to charge you month after month after month for technical updates, well, really they should just knock it out unless they're tinkering with the website and breaking it. Once it's done, it's done. And so they should be spending most of their time building up the credibility and the content strategy. So one thing is the best clients are the ones that, ideally you find an agency that you trust, because then if you trust them, you can get out of the way.
Right.
So that's probably one of the biggest things. Yeah, and that goes beyond just the local service. Just any industry I've ever worked with, the best clients are the ones that go, I understand enough of what you do that I can help you when you ask me to help you. Right. But other than that, I'm just going to let you do your thing.
Tabs.
Yeah. So if you can find somebody that you can trust, then just get out of the way. And then other than that, it's a little bit of showcasing your personality, whether it's the personal branding stuff that Dennis talks about, is there might be 100 plumbers in your state or your county or whatever. There might be 100 HVAC. There might be 100 whatever. So the way you stand out is not by having super technical content all the time. It's by showcasing your personality. What's your little differentiating factor as an individual or a company culture? Because people will follow you for your expertise or your social media or your SEO, but they're going to convert when they relate to you as a human. So don't be scared to lean into what your quirks and your nuances are about you personally or your company.
Good to know. That's exactly like Dennis. That reminds me of Anthony Hill.
Yep.
And all of everything that's done with Anthony is his personality. Anthony is one of the kindest guys. Super, like he's not outgoing, like flatter you outgoing, but he's just outgoing and wants to listen and wants to be your friend. And that's exactly what everything they do is.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to know all the technical details of cutting down a tree and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the relationships he's built, and he's trained up a team of 70 people.
Yeah.
So his trucks and vans and all that are going around everywhere, which builds more of that reputation.
And they're the guys.
And that attracts more of those kinds of people, the personality.
Yeah.
Which for him, it's more like when you get to a certain point, say like 5 million and up, as a local service business, you're focusing more on staffing and training up people, and then having the marketing keep up and making those go together. I wonder for Damon, for you, as you've grown SEO National, obviously you are an expert, but you've had to build a whole team and the whole infrastructure around that. And you even have a certification program, and I see these graduates that come through your program and they become really competent at SEO, even though they don't have 18 years of experience. So what I want to know is, how are you able to transfer what's in your head to people who are maybe relatively new so they can become proficient at SEO?
So this is where I'm more passionate about now. You know, you do something long enough and you're passionate about the industry, but maybe not. Your passion transfers, and so now I get a lot of personal reward out of the certification program that I'm building out and empowering my team. So they're kind of two different questions: the team side and then certifying other people. So on the team side, where the best thing that I ever did was to document processes. And when you build out SOPs, I remember this was probably like 10 years ago. I don't think there's anything that I would say I would do different in my career other than I would have documented processes sooner. And I waited till probably 8 years in. And what had happened was I went to a VC meeting. I had a friend that had built and sold 5 businesses in 10 years. He was starting a new consulting agency and said, hey, they might want something more than what I'm offering. Maybe we can roll you up. You don't have to bite, but just come hear the conversation. And when I left that meeting, I realized 2 things. If I were to ever want to sell, buyers want 2 things. One is they want to take the keys and run, and so you have to have a business that's built sustainably outside you. And 2 is they want to know where the fire is, the leads, so they can just throw more fuel on it. And so when I left that, it really kind of made me look at documenting processes differently. And I had processes, but some were in my head and some were in a Word doc and some were in a spreadsheet. And so that's when I realized I really need to centralize those so I could transfer that skill set to my team. Now, when I set out to do that, documenting processes is painful, but it's rewarding. And so for me, what was painful is, how do I document so many dynamic things? Are they on WordPress? Are they on Shopify? Are they commerce? Are they non-commerce? Are they service-based? Are they not service-based? And do they have a big site? Do they have a small site? Do they have lots of content? Do they have little content? And so how do you document all those variables? And so what I had to do was I went through and documented everything that was black and white first. Anything that I could go, it's always step 1, 2, 3. And then after that, I went back and said, okay, now what are the variables that you can layer on top of that? And when you go through this process of documenting, documenting your processes, your brain starts to soften and shift and start to realize the gaps in between your documentation. So when I did it, I said, I don't want to do this and get to the end and realize that I gave it a half effort and I have to start all over. So I took all the time to document this in a way that, as long as I could hire somebody that could read and follow directions and had 0 experience, they could follow this so literally that they couldn't mess it up. So it took a long time, but that's how we transferred that knowledge to the team. And then what's left after that is the interpretive questions, like how do you document the things that don't have a direct answer? So then you have to come up with, how do you document a process for the team to find the answer? So tell them what to think about and what resources they might leverage. So for the team, that was huge, to document processes really effectively. And then on the certification side, the biggest impact, we've had really cool results. Some of my favorite are people that have had agencies for 15 years and couldn't crack 6 figures. And then within 3 months, they have their first $100,000 a month. And what's interesting, my favorite one is a girl that's been a friend of mine named Sarah. She doesn't even sell SEO, she does webinars. And she came in not to learn SEO. She said, hey, if I learn SEO, that's great, but I'm really here to understand client retention, because her turnover was a couple weeks. And so she comes in and she goes, you broke my brain, is what she said, because we talk about transparency, and I told her, stop over-promising, because her promise was something like, we'll have your webinar done in 3 weeks and you'll be monetizing in 60 days or something like that. So what she took away was to say all the unsexy things. Remember we said the agreement of reasons not to hire us, SEO is slow, takes time, costs money, whatever. So she took that and translated that to her world. Now her 3-week time frame is now 3 months. Now her 30 or 60 day guarantee is now 9 months or whatever. And she went from this massive turnover to, as of the time I talked to her 9 months later, she had 0. She had no turnover.
No way.
She had a massive retention change.
That's insane.
Because she reset and properly aligned client expectations. And so that's been the biggest, what I've learned in doing this training is, yes, I teach SEO, but at the end of the day, I've realized I'm really teaching people how to run a business.
Incredible.
Wow.
And you're also an investor in our business,
Yeah.
Local Service Spotlight. So tell everyone about why you wanted to invest in this business.
Because Dennis, the end.
You invest in people. That's spoken like a real investor.
Yeah. I've invested in a handful of businesses. I'm not like super loaded VC money where I can go drop millions, but out of the, I think 3 times I've invested, all 3 have been because I believed in the person. And if you watch Shark Tank or whatever, I think all those big players say the same thing. They don't buy in the business, they buy into the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Cool. And then what you have on record is because you've invested in this business, because you invest in the people, you have my commitment that no matter what happens with the company, you get my all and I will always make you whole.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever happens with the company, because I never want some kind of bad reputation thing to haunt me. I always want you to think, this is, I put in a little bit of money into this company and I'm happy about it. And I multiply that money, or, things go up and down with startups. There's things, maybe AI could destroy us, or, who knows. But the reason why he's invested is because he knows he has my personal commitment to see it through, which is even independent of all the fine print in the contractual documents and all that. Yeah.
I read everything, like word by word, and I honestly didn't even really read that one because it was like, I read it, but not to the degree of which I usually would, because at the end of the day, contracts are only as good as the people that you're engaging with that you can enforce it against. So at the end of the day, the contract is really worthless. And so it's like, do I trust Dennis?
Appreciate that. Now, you did a training yesterday on AI and SEO.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to watch it later tonight, but can you tell everyone what are some of the key points so that they can be interested and be prepared?
So it's basically what are the 3 fundamentals of showing up higher in AI. And so AI is relatively new, and I think as of just 2 days ago or so, OpenAI released their browser, and so there's all these like new iterations. So to give some credibility as to how I could make such a bold statement and how to show up higher in AI in such a short amount of time, is because AI is just another search engine. So at the end of the day, when we talk about those 3 fundamentals, those are the same 3 things that influence AI. I will say there's one thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but out of those 3 things, there is one thing that I've noticed is weighted heavier in AI versus traditional search engine results. So the training's totally free, and I walk you through that and how you take the fundamentals of the SEO world and apply it to AI to show up in both.
So what's the thing that is most burning on your mind when you look to the future?
Oh, it has nothing to do with business or marketing. Like I think if you're fortunate enough to have a successful career over a length of time, you start to just want peace of mind and simplicity. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I do more with less? Like I still want to do all these grand things. I still have these grand aspirations. I bought this building to, these tables we have here are so I can train other people. And so my main driver in this building, this huge investment, is not even for me. It's to help other people. So it's like, how do I continue to do these big things while also protecting, you age and your priorities change and your energy changes. And so my biggest thing is like, how do I still stay hungry and aggressive while also balancing the reality of different energy?
Yeah. So for the young adults that are watching, what message do you have for them? They want to know what to do about their career. AI is changing. They look at folks like you as a mentor.
Find something you're passionate about. I think that age-old advice is still applicable, and when we talk about, let's break up the entirety of the world into two time frames of pre-AI and post-AI. And so I think pre-AI, most entrepreneurs that you would look forward to, or whoever your mentor is, would say do something that you're passionate about and the money will follow. And that's largely true. And I think it's probably amplified with AI because AI is going to have such a significant impact, positively and negatively, on the economy, that at the end of the day, the people that are passionate and what we talked about being personal, those are the only ones that are going to filter to the top, because AI is just going to neutralize everything else. And so what makes you stand out different is your ability and your future skill set and opportunities is going to be more you than your actual skill set.
Amen.
Cool. Well, thank you, Damon.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say thank you.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I mean, being a young adult, semi-young adult, I don't know. It's there's a lot of paths to take and a lot of advice, and I feel like that goes back to what you said earlier about just doing simple things over and over and over again, just consistency. And then, I mean, the consistent advice is always just do your passion about. Do you like? If I was thinking about this on my drive down to Utah today, is that something I've tried to focus on for a good little bit now is focus on learning. Always learning something new. I mean, working with dentists and even just talking to you over lunch, and now I can tell you're passionate about learning. And I feel like that's the same for all young adults. You're passionate about learning, then you're going to make an impact in whatever field you choose.
Yeah.
Damon, what's one question you wish people would ask you?
Oh, that's a good question, Dennis. Geez, I don't know. I think one of the ones I have been asked, before, but I think one of the questions that I would hope that more people would pay attention to is like, what do you really care about? At the end of the day, like, making money is great. I'm not going to say it's not, but there is a lot of truth to the fact that there's a ceiling of how much that matters. And some people say it's $100,000, some people say it's $250,000. But whatever that ceiling is for you, or that threshold, at some point the next dollar doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't change your life. And let's say you exceed that and you're able to buy everything you ever wanted, you get bored really fast. And so what are you going to do beyond that pursuit of financial incentive that you're passionate about, that you want to spend time on? So don't get too caught up in the chase. Like, if you're passionate about it, go down the rabbit hole, that's fine. But don't get too caught up in the chase from a financial incentive, because at some point you're going to burn out, or you're going to look back and go, my life is nearly over and I missed all these opportunities. So I've been really fortunate to be aware of that. I had this crazy childhood that made me go, my evolution to success was not a pursuit of success. It was an avoidance of drama and chaos. And so by having that in perspective, I was able to keep tabs on what mattered, right? And so it's like, my wife and I have been together 21 years, and I love her more than ever. We have a great relationship with our kids. We have 3 kids. And so you see all these other people, and you hear these horror stories of the guy that makes $5 million, but he doesn't want to stay home until he gets 10, or he skips the family vacation because of whatever. Like, I'll wrap this up with one example that I gave a friend, and we kind of put each other in check, and we messaged each other on Marco Polo. And she said her daughter asked for a limo for, whatever 9th grade dance, 10th grade dance. And she said, it's $500, it's not a big deal, but like, should I really? And I said, you will never remember that $500, but your daughter will never forget that limo. And so it's not about, find your financial stability, get financial freedom, get your baseline, put food on the table. But beyond that, you can't go much further for a sustainable amount of time unless you include the people you care about, or you have some long-term vision that you're passionate about.
Amen. Damon Burton, SEO National, Sam McLeod.
Local service spotlight.
Any final thoughts? You get the last word.
I'm horrible at this final thoughts. Go start, don't stop. There you go.
Sam, anything encouraging you want to add?
Just be passionate for learning. Listen to Damon. He's smart. He's got a great life.
And that's episode 1 of the Local Service Spotlight. Hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know. What do you think? Do you have questions for Damon? Are there things that are burning in your mind about AI and SEO? he's the guy. Go follow him. The fact that you've stumbled upon this video, you have found a rare gem, because there's so many people that want to give you advice on SEO and AI, but you want to look at what their intent is, because there's always bias on that. Michael Stelzner posted about that just a couple days ago, the founder of Social Media Marketing World. You want to learn from the people who are credible, who are direct practitioners, and that's why we like spending time, and we'll even fly out to see people like Damon Burton. So tune in, let us know. What do you guys think? See you in the next episode.